Old Dirty Bastard was one of the most unique and influential rappers in the game. When the Wu Tang Clan popped off in the early 90s, nobody had heard anything like what he was doing. His verses were wild, but his real life was even crazier. From storming the stage at the Grammys, to allegedly getting into shootouts with the cops, and being investigated by the FBI. Today, we're breaking down a crazy story of the legendary O.D.B. O.D.B came up in Brooklyn with his cousins RZA and GZA. They all love hip-hop and kung fu movies, and eventually they formed their own crew, Force of the Imperial Master. Later, they changed their name to All In Together Now after they dropped a track with the same title. It wasn't until they added 6 more members to the crew that they finally became the Wu Tang Clan. When they dropped their debut album in '93, it changed the whole game. Enter the Wu Tang didn't sound like anything else, and it opened the door for other New York artists like Nas, Biggie, Mobb Deep, and Jay-Z. Eventually, it was certified triple platinum, and in 2022, the Library of Congress decided to preserve it in the National Recording Registry because of how significant it was to the rap industry. Wu-Tang were popping off like crazy, and O.D.B was at the front wave. In '95, he dropped his first solo album and went platinum, and later that same year, he shocked everyone by linking up with Mariah Carey on her track Fantasy. O.D.B's music was running up crazy numbers, but then he started making headlines for his life outside of the industry. When MTV was filming a biography of him, O.D.B took his kids to a welfare office in a limousine to cash a welfare check and pick up food stamps. His album was in the top 10 at the time, and O.D.B just got handed a $45K advance, but he told MTV, if you can get free money, there's no reason to pass it up. In '97, Wu-Tang finally dropped their second album as a crew, and it ended up selling a crazy 600K copies in the first week out. O.D.B wasn't on as many tracks as their debut, but pretty soon, he was back in the headlines for something outside of the rap game. While he was recording at a studio in Brooklyn, O.D.B saw a car crash outside of the window. He grabbed a few of his homies and ran out into the street. Then got like a dozen bystanders to help him move the wrecked Mustang and rescue a 4-year-old girl. She spent time in the hospital for first and second degree burns, but thanks to O.D.B, she made it out of the situation alive. While she was in the hospital, O.D.B would come in and visit her all the time. But then the press caught on, and he couldn't go back and see her without getting hounded by the paparazzi. Saving a little girl from a car crash would have kept him in the spotlight and headlines. But the very next night, O.D.B did something even crazier. Wu-Tang was up for the Grammy for Best Rap Album of the Year, but Diddy ended up beating them in the category. The Rap Album Award wasn't even handed out on TV, but when Sean Colvin went up to accept the award for Song of the Year, O.D.B rushed the stage and grabbed the mic. Everyone remembers when Kanye did the same thing to Taylor Swift, but it was even more shocking back when O.D.B did it. Rap was still a pretty underground genre compared to rock and pop, and didn't dominate pop culture like it does today. So when a rapper ran up on live TV during one of the biggest awards, nobody knew what to do. O.D.B started ranting about how he bought a new outfit just for the show, but the Wu still lost to Diddy. He said,
Wu-Tang is for the children. We teach the children. You know what I mean? Puffy is good, but Wu-Tang is the best. Okay? I want y'all to know that this is O.D.B and I love you all. Peace.
The media flipped out over what went down, and the next day, O.D.B went on the Howard Stern show to talk about the situation. According to him, he didn't even plan on going on stage, but something just came over him and he had to do it. He also said that Diddy's bodyguards tried to press him when he got off stage, but O.D.B made it clear that it was all love and he didn't have any issues with Diddy. Nobody knew it at the time, but this was when O.D.B's tragic downfall really started. He dropped his second album in '99, but it had to be recorded in between his time behind bars as his drug and alcohol problems got worse and worse. O.D.B had a successful career throughout the '90s. That didn't keep him out of trouble. In '93, he got hit with an assault charge over an attempted robbery, and 1 year later, he was shot in the stomach after getting into an argument in the streets of Brooklyn. He got booked again in '97 for not paying child support to the mother of 3 of his children, Iceline Jones. O.D.B had at least 13 kids, but most of them were with different women, and in '98, he got arrested over Iceline again when he pleaded guilty to attempted assault. O.D.B was making headlines for saving kids and snatching the mic at the Grammys in '98. But that same year, he was also robbed and shot at his girlfriend's house. O.D.B said he woke up with a gun to his head and started fighting 2 dudes who jacked his jewelry and cash. It went down in the same hood his sister lived in, and O.D.B said he didn't want to press the issue because it could put her in danger. He was shot in the back and arm, but O.D.B walked out of the hospital right after they treated his wounds. Then just a few days later, he was booked in Virginia after he tried to steal a $50 pair of kicks from a shoe store. O.D.B had around $500 in cash on him when he was arrested, and nobody knows why he tried to steal the shoes. A few weeks after the situation in Virginia, he was arrested in LA for criminal threatening. When O.D.B got back to New York, he was pulled over by the cops, but what happened next isn't clear. There are a few different stories about what went down, but they're all conflicting, and there's no evidence to back any of it up. O.D.B ended up getting hit with attempted murder and criminal weapon possession charges, but then the whole case got dropped. He had another run-in with the cops in January 1999, and 2 NYPD officers ended up letting off 8 shots at him during a traffic stop. cops say, O.D.B hopped out of his whip and started shooting first, but the only shells found at the scene came from the cops' guns. O.D.B was found innocent by a grand jury, but it was clear that the cops wanted him off the street. A month later, he was arrested in LA again for driving without a license and wearing a bulletproof vest as a convicted felon. O.D.B had just been shot in New York and was already worried about people trying to take him out, but the police didn't care and still booked him on the charges. O.D.B was hopping between coasts and getting arrested everywhere he went. A few weeks after he was arrested for the body armor, the NYPD caught him with weed and 20 vials of crack in his car. Even with all the arrests, O.D.B had avoided serving any time in prison. In 2000, he was ordered by the courts to go to rehab for 6 months after he violated probation, and at first, it seemed like it might be working out. O.D.B only had 2 months to go before he'd be a free man again, but that's when he broke out of the rehab center and went on the run. While he was doing a race, he linked up a RZA to record some new material, and then he showed up at a Wu Tang album release party and made the crowd go wild. Somehow, O.D.B left the party without getting caught, even though there were cops all around the venue. But a few days later, he was signing autographs for fans in the McDonald's parking lot in Philadelphia when cops pulled up and arrested him. This time, he didn't get off easy, and he was sentenced to 2 to 4 years in prison. O.D.B didn't take the news well and had to be put on suicide watch. Apparently, his time on the inside was straight up horrible. He was getting jumped all the time. At one point, somebody even broke his leg in a holding facility. But in 2003, he was granted parole and signed a new deal with Rockefeller Records the same day. O.D.B spent the next few months trying to record his new album, but he couldn't shake his issues with drugs and alcohol. And on November 13, 2004, O.D.B collapsed in RZA's studio and was pronounced dead from an overdose of cocaine and an opioid called Tramadol. What a lot of fans don't know is that O.D.B and the entire Wu Tang Clan were also being investigated by the FBI when he died. In 2012, documents came out that the feds thought Wu Tang wasn't just a rap crew, but a massive criminal empire that ran guns and drugs. According to the FBI, the Wu were buying guns from a dude in Steubenville, Ohio. One of the straps they allegedly bought there was used to kill a Wu affiliate named Pooh in 1997. Someone in the crew allegedly ordered the hit. The feds thought that the Wu made the dudes prove their loyalty by doing dirt. Then they'd be given recording contracts, and all the dirty money would be laundered through the Wu's record label. After O.D.B was robbed and shot at his girlfriend's place back in 1998, he allegedly didn't try to investigate who was behind it because he didn't want to put heat on his sister. But the feds don't think that's how it went down. Just 1 week after the robbery, a dude named Ishmael Kerma was shot and killed in Steubenville, Ohio, where the Wu allegedly bought their guns. On the same day Kerma died, the cops in Steubenville pulled over a car and found a shotgun and ammo in the whip. And according to the documents, O.D.B was in the car with some other dudes who weren't named. According to informants, Kerma owed money for drugs and he ended up getting killed over the debt. O.D.B was never booked for the murder. He was a prime suspect in the case. It's not clear how involved with the streets the Wu and O.D.B really were. The FBI documents are heavily censored, so it's tough to say how much evidence they really had against them. But since nobody in the crew ever got taken down for anything serious, the feds obviously didn't have a strong case against him. There's a lot of rumors about what O.D.B did in the streets, but the only thing we really know is that he was one of the most unique and influential artists in the rap game. But unfortunately, he never really got the help he needed, and O.D.B passed away 2 days before his 36th birthday. In his book, The Tao of Wu, RZA wrote, O.D.B was a visionary, but he decayed. He lost that vision. From the time they put him in jail, to all the drugs he was doing, to all the stress he went through with his family. It took away his ability to see. Rest in peace to O.D.B.